Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I was just thinking that I should talk about NIV use in COVID 19. You know that initially most of the societies were against the use of NIV, fearing that it is an aerosol generating procedure and is high risk of infection to healthcare workers. But now almost all centers are using NIV and HFNO, which is high flow nasal oxygen. As we have NIV devices in PUF hospital, we are using NIV both via ventilator and via CPAP or BiPAP units, which are specialized devices or machines which give either CPAP or BiPAP through different interfaces. The main principle of using NIV in COVID is the same as we use NIV in acute hypoxemic respiratory failure, with added precautions related to aerosol generation. So, for example, UHS recommends that only non-vented interfaces or masks should be used with NIV in COVID patients. But of course, we have limitation. Non-vented masks. If we use only non-vented masks with NIV, then most of our patients will be left untreated. So, by using extra precautions like level 3 protection, PPE protection, we can use simple BiPAP machines. Of course, our priority should be NIV through ventilator with double ports. Double ports means that there should be two circuits: inhalation circuit and exhalation circuit. And in NIV with ventilator, there is it is a closed system. So there are no vented the masks are not vented. I mean, there is no exhalation ports on the mask, so a risk of aerosolization is minimized. The principle is that you want to decrease the work of breathing, and by giving pressurized air, a positive airway pressure during inspiration and keeping some pressure during expiration, you achieve two goals. By expiratory pressure, you try to recruit the alveoli, which means that the areas of the lungs which are damaged, the alveoli are collapsed, are about to collapse, are filled with fluid, are inflammatory fluid. They can be opened by applying EPAP, which is expiratory positive airway pressure. Secondly, the inspiratory airway pressure helps to build the pressure support. The pressure support actually is basically a pressure support basically is not needed usually in hypoxemic respiratory disease or acute hypoxemic respiratory failure, because the main problem is oxygenation and EPAP serves the purpose of reoxygenation. But as the patients are dyspneic, tachypneic, and they require prolonged NIV, we here in PUF hospital are using BiPAP instead of CPAP for additional purpose of offloading the respiratory muscles to reduce work of breathing. So we give BiPAP or NIV with IPAP and EPAP, means with the pressure support to these patients as a routine. This also serves the purpose of not confusing our juniors regarding the appropriate NIV therapy, because if we start using CPAP in some patients, BiPAP in other patients, then it will be difficult to tell each and everyone that what is the purpose of using CPAP in one setting and BiPAP in another setting. Ideally, the BiPAP is used only in type 2 respiratory failure when there is a pump problem. When there is a problem of ventilation, you use BiPAP. When there is difference between IPAP and EPAP, which is called pressure support, which actually delivers a tidal volume so that patient's ventilation is improved and CO2 is washed out. In CPAP, there is no ventilation. So, in technical terms, it should not be called NIV, but in practical terms, we call it NIV. CPAP delivers only one fixed pressure, that is, IPAP is equal to EPAP, which is called CPAP. For example, a pressure of 5 means there will be a positive airway pressure of 5 centimeter of water during inspiration and expiration. This will help in opening up the alveoli. When the patient exhales, the pressure of 5 centimeters will still be there in the airway, so the alveoli will not tend to collapse at the end of expiration. So what is the how will we start using NIV in a COVID environment? The first thing is that you identify a patient of hypoxemic respiratory failure. We usually do ABGs, but even if you do not do ABGs, you can see that if the patient's saturations are less than 90 on room air, he is said to be in hypoxemic respiratory failure, needing some additional oxygen, supplemental oxygen. The first thing that we use is nasal cannula, and as you know that nasal cannula can deliver about maximum of 44% FiO2, a 0.44 FiO2, because normal air contains 20-21% of air, oxygen. 1 liter of nasal cannula is equal to 24% of FiO2, 2 liters equals 28%, 3 liters 32%, 4 liters 36%, 5 liters 40%. After 5 liters, if you increase the flow rate to 6 liters, 7 liters, it does not affect the FiO2 delivered to the patient. So if you want to give more than 40% FiO2, you need to upgrade to face mask, and face mask will give you up to 52, because 52 or 48, 52, because with 6 liter it means 44, with 7 liters means 48%, with 8 liters mean 52%. After 8 liters, if you increase the flow from 8 to 9 to 10, the face mask won't be able to increase the ratio of the delivered oxygen. FiO2 won't increase after 8 liters on face mask. So after face mask, you have the option of non-rebreather mask. With non-rebreather mask, practically you can give oxygen more than 0.9 or 90% FiO2. So our strategy is to first start with nasal cannula if the patient needs low FiO2. If the patient maintains FiO2 saturation more than 92% on nasal cannula, and patient is not tachypneic, patient is not breathlessness, patient is not using accessory muscles, the patient's work of breathing is tolerable, and after using nasal cannula, the patient's respiratory rate improves, patient oxygenation improves, then you have to stop at nasal cannula and wait. But if patient needs more oxygen, then we go to Venturi device, which is called a magic box in respiratory therapy, because it gives you exact percentage of FiO2. We use 40% Venturi. If it is needed, that patient needs more oxygen, we upgrade to 60% of FiO2, because last amount of oxygen that FiO2 is given is 60% with Venturi. If patient is still hypoxemic, then we choose non-rebreathing mask. Another option which we have just started is PEP mask. They are specialized masks which have PEP mask means positive and expiratory pressure mask. These masks have a PEEP valve at the expiratory site, so oxygen can be given from inspiratory port and the patient will exhale through the PEEP valve. So the PEEP valve will do the action of CPAP, that is opening of the smaller airways and alveoli. One patient has improved with PAP mask. Uh, Only problem is there is a tight fitting mask, so there's a feeling of discomfort, adaptability, and claustrophobia with this. But it is cheaper. It does not require a CPAP or BiPAP machine, and it can be used. It can be modified to be used with high flow oxygen like non-rebreather mask. But currently we do not have an adapter to connect a non-rebreather mask, so we used 60% Venturi to give oxygen to a patient who needed high flow oxygen. With non-rebreather masks, her oxygen was 88%, which means with a FiO2 of 0.9, she was getting saturation up to 88%. And when we attached PEP mask with a 60% oxygen, in effect we reduced the FiO2 to 60%, but we applied PEP mask with a PEEP of 5, her oxygenation, her saturation improved to 94%. So with a lower FiO2 we achieved higher oxygenation. So this is the use of CPAP or PEEP in these patients. I would briefly touch upon the use of NIV in our COVID setup. Ideally, NIV should be used with ventilators and with a closed circuit system, which means that the mask used should be non-vented. That means there should be no exhalation ports with double circuit, one for the inhalation, one for exhalation, and in a closed system. If we use a vented mask system with a single tubing, which means that there will be exhalation port, exhalation valve on the mask to aid exhalation or removal of carbon dioxide, it will increase the risk of infection to healthcare workers. So ideally we should use NIV on ventilators with non-vented masks as far as possible. Because the patients are apprehensive, fearful, dyspneic, we should use an interface. We should cover their mouth and nose, and we should use lowest possible pressures to start with. Because most of the patient won't have used NIV before, so we should allow the patients to touch their masks, to hold their masks, so that their fear can be allayed. We should start with lower pressure, as I said before. For example, in thin lean patients or in normal build patients, we should start with EPAP of 4, which is our primary goal is EPAP, not IPAP in hypoxemic respiratory failure. And IPAP, if you want to use an IPAP of 12, which gives us pressure support, which is the difference of IPAP and EPAP, pressure support of 8. With this support, first you will see the patient's comfort, which will be indicated by patient's synchrony with the mask. Ask the patient to breathe with the mask, I mean with the inspiration. Inspire with the ventilator and expire with the ventilator as much as possible. And patient's respiratory rate should decrease. After the patient gets acclimatized to his mask, you can increase the pressures to your desired levels. Ideally, in severely hypoxemic patients, we give 5/15 the pressures. 5 is EPAP, 15 is IPAP, which gives you a pressure support of 10. Most patients will do good on these pressures. After half to 1 hour, you can either judge the patient clinically. You can see the saturation, you can see that their respiratory rate has dropped, you can see that their excessive muscle use has dropped, and the saturations have improved. It means they are tolerating the NIV and they are getting benefit from NIV. You can use ABGs to objectively judge the response of NAV. In obese patients, you can use higher pressure. You can go up to higher pressure. Starting from lower pressure, you can go up to higher pressure. For example, EPAP can be 6, 7 or 8, and IPAP can be accordingly, you can increase to 16, 18 or 20. One principle that you should keep in mind, whenever you increase the EPAP, you have to increase IPAP to maintain the pressure support. For example, if you are starting with 4 and 12, which means the pressure support of 8, if you want to increase EPAP to increase oxygenation, because for oxygenation you will increase EPAP, and for ventilation to reduce carbon dioxide you will increase IPAP. Your first goal is to increase oxygen levels. You will increase EPAP, for example, from 4 to 6. Now if you calculate, if you're using EPAP 6 and you have not increased the IPAP from 8 to 10, your pressure support has decreased from 8 to 6. So you have decreased the ventilation. So in order to balance it, you have to increase the IPAP by the same amount you have increased EPAP. For example, if you have increased EPAP from 4 to 6, you will increase the IPAP from 12 to 14. So other things now, we can go on to describe other important things regarding NAV, like how much pressures you can give. In patients who have already been using NAV, for example, they are using CPAP for OSA, BiPAP, PAP for their chronic respiratory failure, maybe due to COPD or OHS, which is obesity hyperventilation syndrome. In these patients, you can start with higher pressures. They won't be benefited from lower pressures. In fact, they will deteriorate if you start with lower pressures. So you have to start with higher pressures. So if you have started, for example, you are giving 515 NAV to a patient, and you think that patient needs more pressure support, more oxygenation, you want to increase EPAP. So how much EPAP should be increased, and what are the benefits and what are the harms which can occur by increasing EPAP? Of course, the benefit would be more recruitment of alveoli. There will be more splinting of the airway. There will be decrease in the dead space if you increase the EPAP. The main thing is alveolar recruitment, lung recruitment. You can increase EPAP to safely to 10. After 10, increasing the EPAP actually increases patients' discomfort. So in most circumstances, you should not go beyond 10. So you can start from 5, then you go to 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. For IPAP, the lower esophageal sphincter pressure is 25 centimeters of water. If you go beyond 25 centimeters of water, there is a risk of aspiration. So ideally, you should not go beyond 10 centimeters of water of IPAP. But in obese patients and patients who are already on NIV due to OHS, you can go beyond that. So these are the limitations of pressure. Sometimes a big mistake which we make is that we think that patient is still using accessory muscles, the patient is still tachypneic, dyspneic, and we increase the pressure support, thinking that it will benefit the patient, will give more tidal volume, and more tidal volume will open up the lungs, will increase the ventilation, and will give more comfort to the patient, and patient will benefit. But in fact, what happens is that these patients are tachypneic, they are using accessory muscles, so they build negative pressure at the start of their inspiratory effort. When they build negative pressure, you apply a further inspiratory pressure. What are you doing is actually increasing the transpulmonary pressure. Increased transpulmonary pressure actually harms the lungs by increasing lung injury, which is called induced lung injury. So we have to take care of this fact also. So a middle ground should be achieved where the we should take care of the patient comfort and also our targets. If you want to achieve targets but patient is not comfortable, there will be more ventilator asynchrony and your NIV trial will fail. And if you take care of the patient comfort and you don't take care of your targets, then there is no purpose of NIV. So you have to balance these two facts. Another mistake which our juniors do and still continue to do in some stations is that when they attach ventilator, when they start NIV on ventilator, ventilators do not have separate reading of IPAP and EPAP. Most ventilators have readings of pressure support and CPAP on NIV mode. CPAP is actually EPAP. EPAP is expiratory positive and airway pressure. CPAP is continuous positive airway pressure. So on ventilator, EPAP is PEEP or CPAP. PEEP. So you set a PEEP. For example, you want to give a PEEP or EPAP of 5 and IPAP of 15. So there is no reading of IPAP. There is no control of IPAP on ventilators. So what will you do? You will have to adjust. You will have to calculate the pressure support and apply that pressure support. For example, 515 means 10 is the pressure support. So you will fix PEEP at 5 and pressure support at 10, which will automatically mean that you are giving IPAP of 15. But few doctors, by mistake, they think that this 15 is actually IPAP, which is not. So they set that at 15 and PEEP at 5, thinking that is 515 pressure setting, but in effect this pressure setting is 520, where 15 is pressure support. So 5 plus 15 is 20, which is IPAP. So please take care of this fact, because too much IPAP is not required in acute hypoxemic respiratory failure. This is requirement of type 2 respiratory failure. So we do not need very high IPAP. As I described before, it can increase patient-induced lung injury or physician-induced lung injury or ventilator-induced lung injury. You don't want to do that. You have to balance things. Start at the pressure which patients tolerates, then gradually build those pressures. How long NIV is required? There is a set parameters for type 2 respiratory failure and COPD, but for COVID patients, of course, we do not know for how long they will require. So we have to time their off periods. Initially, patient won't allow you to remove their NIV because they will dip very steeply. So you have to take that into account. Some patients may allow you to switch to NRM in between so that they get rest and they can get feeding, they can talk to others. But most patients who require NIV will need that continuously. By using NIV continuously, what are the risks? Risks are that the patient's feeding is hampered, the patients will feel uncomfortable, the tolerance goes down, and there are risks of ulcers, pressure sores around nose and forehead, cheeks. So you have to take care of these pressure sores. You can apply silicone dressing over the nose of the bridge, or some gels are available, or some specially made masks in which you can fill there are air cushions which are more comfortable, can be used. Or another thing is that you have to give them break a few minutes and massage the areas and clean the areas so that the skin areas are dry, and then reapply the mask so that the pressure sores don't occur. Because once the pressure sores occur, then using of NIV will be very difficult. Another practical thing that we are using is that we insert nasal cannula underneath the mask of NIV, so that if by chance patient's mask is removed, at least patient's getting some oxygen through nasal cannula. This is one purpose. The second purpose is that when patient feeds or wants to talk by removing mask, he is still getting oxygen via nasal cannula. So this is dual purpose is achieved. Plus, of course, some more FiO2 maybe given to the patient by attaching nasal cannula underneath an NIV. When you see that patient is improving, you can reduce the pressures gradually, and when you think that now patient can be switched to other devices, you should not delay it and switch them immediately to lower devices, ideally to Venturi mask. And indications of de-escalating therapy is that patient is fully conscious, patient is tolerating the mask, patient is having synchrony with the NIV settings, patient's settings have come down to 515 at 4.8, 412, and still patient oxygenation is above 92 or 90, some centers say 90, some centers say 92, above 92 for example, patient has achieved above 92 saturation. So you can try, and patient is comfortable, means respiratory rate is around 20 or less than 20. You can switch on to Venturi, and most patients with moderate respiratory failure will have successful NIV trial, and some patients with severe COVID would have successful NIV trial, but still there will be many patients who won't be benefited from NIV, and you will think of escalating therapy to invasive mechanical ventilation. Setting, there are three settings that for which you use NIV. Number one is as a ceiling of treatment, that you have decided that this is your last respiratory therapy that you will provide to the patient. Number two, as a bridge to mechanical ventilation. And number three, as a preventive measure for mechanical ventilation, that you want to prevent invasive mechanical ventilation, so you use NIV. One another question is that what if the patient doesn't tolerate NIV, or there's a contraindications to NIV. Contraindications mean the patient is too drowsy, too irritable, upper airway, the patient has upper airway obstruction, a patient is confused, a patient is having vomiting, patient is claustrophobic, patient has special anatomy that precludes use of any interface. So what will you do in these settings? Of course, there are choices available like high flow nasal oxygen with a nasal cannula. It is a special device which delivers oxygen as high as 40 to 60 liters of oxygen per minute. So these are very tolerable to the patients, and you can use that if you have these devices. Or you can use PEP masks which has lower PEEP. With a lower PEEP, you can use PEP mask if patient tolerates, but the patient who do not tolerate CPAP also do not tolerate PEP mask. You can use special helmets with smaller PEEP walls or without PEEP walls, so that you can achieve 100% NIV. And as a last option, you have invasive mechanical ventilation to use. You have got answers to some of your questions during this talk. If you want to ask more questions, you can convey them to me. Thank you.